Hello, welcome to my YouTube space. I am the Kenyan Beast. Now, in today's video, I'm gonna react on this clip of there's this white professor is talking about the poverty in Africa. Talking about how poor countries in Africa, they will still continue to be poor and they cannot be liberated economically simply because of this.
Nice idea, but it won't help. It'll just formalize the reality that poor countries can never repay their loans.
Senator, are you saying that you're opposed to debt relief for impoverished countries?
No, we should forgive the debts, but that's not going to help those countries very much.
Okay. What will?
Tax cuts. Some African tax rates are the highest in the world. In Tanzania, the 30% rate kicks in at $475 of income. Plus, they have a 20% value-added tax. It gets added to everything you buy. Those high tax rates make it impossible to build capital in those countries. So nothing gets built, not factories, not roads, not anything. Poor African countries have the lowest wage workers in the world. And yet a company like Nike, for instance, can't put a factory in one of those countries because of the oppressive tax rates. Taxes have killed any possibility of economic development. They've killed any hope of these countries ever helping themselves. And that leaves them completely at the mercy of charity and loans. And here's the worst part. You know why those countries have such high tax rates? Because of us. To show us that they can raise enough money to pay back their loans. But taxes can't raise any money if they kill the economies. So it turns out that the tragic, unintended consequence of our good intentions toward Africa, our kindness, is that we have encouraged those countries to lock themselves into a gruesome economic depression. If we don't urge those countries to cut their tax rates, they will never grow their economies. People will live lifetimes of unemployment. Disease will be rampant. Poverty will be permanent. And children will be hungry. And our charity will never be enough. Never.
What makes African and third world debt different from the American debt? Number one, America is never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in US dollars. Africa has to earn the US dollars, and the only way it can earn the US dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank is that no country should grow its own food. Africa and the third world should only grow export crops. To export, in order to have an oversupply of cocoa and other tropical raw materials, to keep down the price, they must buy their grain from the United States or Europe, so that if they do something that we don't like, we can sanction them. We can say, we're going to starve you. We're going to not export any grain to you.
These white people discussing about poverty in Africa. And funny thing enough is that they know they are the problem, because there's somewhere said poor African countries, they are struggling with high taxes and, they are increasing taxes simply because of us. They want to show us that they can pay their debt. He is right. He is right. And again, he knows very well that they are the problem. The problem is them. Now, let's talk about these taxes. Before we talk about these taxes, let's talk about debts that these African countries they are taking. Now, a white country or IMF or World Bank will come to your country and say that we want to give you money so that you can build your infrastructure. We want to give you money so that you can build your what? And these leaders who are, how can I call them? Greedy of money. It's okay. Some of them ain't greedy. They will take the money and they will build infrastructure. For example, it's Rwanda and Ethiopia, example of countries that have used this debt or these loans to build their country economically or infrastructure of their country. See Rwanda. Rwanda is one of the cleanest city ever, and they have run it through debts. Ethiopia, they have built this electric rail, So Ethiopia and Rwanda, for me, are the examples of countries that have used their loans and debts to build the country. Okay. But there are some countries, the loans are eating them up. And one of these countries is Kenya. Another country is Nigeria. Okay? Nigeria and Kenya are the good example of countries that are suffering because of these debts, these IMF loans and these World Bank loans. Kenya, they took this loan to build a standard gauge rail, and they end up building something else that Magufuli built with less money, and he built electric train. Ethiopia took the same amount of money, They took the same amount of money and they did something with it. So, if you get a leader who is greedy, corrupt, let's say like William Ruto, for example, that means that your country will go into deep debt and they will increase taxes to try to pay these debts. But at the end of the day, the people of the country will be just crying because high cost of living, economically expensive, goods are expensive. So it will be so hard for a country to survive simply because of these debts. Now, this white man who is talking about on this video, he is right. The high taxes on people is making a country to be so poor, not rich, simply because if we have high taxes, that means we cannot run businesses. It's very hard to run a business with high taxes. The poverty in these countries like Kenya and Nigeria, it's because of these high taxes. And these high taxes, it has been brought because of these loans, these debts. So, as a country, for example, a country like Kenya, a country like Nigeria, when you take loans, you need to invest on the infrastructure, you need to invest on what that loans you have taken to do it with that money. But if you take loans and you put them in your pockets and you come and tax us citizens, and the pain thing is that you are taxing us and we have not seen what you have done and we don't see where the money go. We are still going through, poor infrastructure. The roads connecting markets and farmers, it's poor. The school is, it's poor. So the health facilities, it's poor. And yet you are taxing us high, So we are rotating in poverty because some greedy and corrupt leaders took an IMF loan and they put them in their pockets, and now we as the citizens of these countries, we are the one paying for it. So we cannot run businesses, we cannot build infrastructure because the country is on the verge of selling their airports, selling their seaports. They want to take everything from that country if you fail to pay that loan. So, the only thing we can do to avoid all this is to choose good leaders. To choose good leaders who will run the country how it needs to be run, who will use this money, in a good way, who will use the money that they have borrowed. Because maybe if your country, it's necessary for you to borrow, but can you actualize? Now, I can say this. A country like Burkina Faso, a country like Mali, Niger, they are trying so hard to cut these debts. They don't want to take the debts again. They want to build the country from the resources of the countries. We can build a country from what we have. America and Africa is so different. simply because Africa is taking these loans in dollars. America can't pay their loans because they are printing their own money, their own dollars, so they can pay these loans by their own dollars. That's what I'm just thinking. But Africa is taking this money through loans or through dollar. So you need to buy this dollar for you to pay this loan. And that's where problem started. Now, what I'm understanding is that this is a psychological move these white countries, they did to us. For a country, African country, to be dependent on them, to be poor forever, just to depend on them, we need to give them these loans. Let's tell them, we are giving you money to help yourself. We are giving you money to build this and this. We are giving you money for this and this. But at the end of the day, it is not to help us because they are detecting what we want. They want us to use their policies. They are giving us rules. So it is hard for us to make something out of this simply because we are not the one who are detecting the policies and the rules. Like, for example, in Kenya, before we had this Gen Z protest, there is this new law. It was the new bill of tax that they were imposing on us. And IMF was behind this. I knew Ruto denied that IMF was not behind it, but IMF was behind it because the amount of taxes they were imposing to us, it was not the deal of our own people. It was the deal of IMF. For you to pay your loan, you need to do this. And a country cannot be built by loans. A country can be built by its own resources. Now, they are coming to Kenya, they are coming to Africa, exploiting our resources, go and build their countries, they are growing economically, and then they are coming and give us loans. That's what they are doing. That's what they are doing. It is systematic to continue to colonize us. This is a way to continue to put us down and down and down, because we cannot remove ourselves on this shit. If you have loan and you cannot pay, they can take your country maybe. Sometimes they had this thing of Mombasa is not Kenya, or they want to sell the Mombasa port, talking about the airport. So a country that is run by debts and has bad leadership, that country is going down, and the people will never become rich. That's what this white guy was saying, and he is right. He is right. As long as far as some people will say he's a white person, he does not have to speak about this, about African countries, but he knows what they are doing to us. Now this is an eye-opening. He knows exactly what they are doing to us. They are just killing us softly and buying us every day. We are living their dream. We are living their agenda. In fact, all these leaders, they know, but they have decided, you know what? Let us enjoy ourselves. We don't care about the people anymore. That's what they are thinking. We don't care about the people. Let them suffer. But for us, we are enjoying. We have money. We are here because they are eating together. That's what they are doing. They are eating together with these colonies. So what we can do is to cut the tax hikes, reduce the taxes so that people can do business. Farmers can farm and sell their products. People can open businesses without these high taxes. It's so bad to see a country that is exploiting, or a country that is has a lot of resources. For example, Ghana has a lot of cocoa, copper. For example, Congo is thriving in gold and all this uranium, but it's dying every day. Now, we need just to choose good leaders. That's what we need to do. To choose good leaders and to say no to these foreign countries so that we can run our own business. That's what I think. Tell me what you think on the comment section about this video. Because at the end of the day, Africa is our business. And we must do it an African way every day, every time. And we need to see where there is problem and to see how we can amend these problems. That's what we need to do. Comment down there. Until next episode, peace be with you.